Started here in 1 minute, just waiting to get live on YouTube.
All right, Wade, we are live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the application process as well as what kind of closing steps that are usually required on funding. So if I'm going to share my screen and go from here. All right, so you see the screen there?
Yep, we do.
All right. Okay, guys, I am going to very quickly go over the application process and just the different parts of the application that are so vital to us. And a lot of this, by the way, we have to change. I would say 6 out of 10 apps that we get are not correctly filled out by the client. So we have to go and check them. Number one, we need the legal name of the company and their DBA. If the bank statements have a different name than the name on the company, then that's when we have to get involved. And it happens often where we have to talk to the client and see what the real legal name of the business is. So it's not just a matter of them doing this without, I mean, there's usually issues that we at least 6 out of 10 times somewhere on this application. Business inception date is really important because a lot of the folks, I won't say a lot, but I would say probably 30% of them, 20% of them, something like that, will have the business inception date dated for 2024. They're just thinking, oh, it was really 2020, but since this is 2024, they make these mistakes. And then of course we want their phone numbers and their business address. And if it's a PO box, we can't accept it. So we have to go back to the client. We have to get it changed. These are things that we do behind the scenes. Then the legal entity, sometimes they put sole prop, or sometimes they put LLC, and it's just not, but we have to go through those and we have to fix that. Then we get down to part 4 where they put their information. When it comes to the home address, it cannot be a PO box, and we must have a physical address. And a lot of times we have to go back and fix that as well. Their FICO, they'll put on there what they say it is. It's usually almost never the same, but that helps us in taking, knowing exactly where this thing is headed. Also, the percentages. If the client owns only 51% of the business or less than that, then we're going to always, in most cases anyway, have to get another owner on there. We really need to be about 66%, unless it's a big corporation that they can get us a letter from the board of directors that authorizes this person to enter into a funding agreement. So even the small ones, if it says 51%, then we know that 49% is owned by someone else, and they're almost always going to ask for it. These are things that we're doing for you behind the scenes. We want that percentage to be above 66, if there's not going to be, or 70, if there's not going to be another person on there. And I'll go through why in just a few minutes. And then of course we need them to electronically sign the application. If they leave it blank, it's not going to work. And your agent name and numbers automatically populated when they go to your site there, so we know exactly who it comes to. Now, going to the next slide, closing steps, when they're going to be requested. These are the typical closing steps that we have on almost every app is proof of ownership. Usually when the application has more than one owner that owns 25% or more, the 25% needs to be on there. Or if we look at or they look at it, when I say they, the funding department, regardless of who the lender is, they look at the Secretary of State and it shows other names besides the owner, then they're going to be curious who really owns this. So many times a manager tries to apply for money and they don't own the business. So it's important for us to get that ownership. And usually we can do it. The real simple way is the last filed tax return or articles of organization, which are articles of incorporation. So we want to know, do these people really own the business? And if they do, what percentage? And that's absolutely important to us. And it's important to the funder because they do not want to fund someone that doesn't have the authority to enter into this. And you would say, well, 51% they've got the authority. Well, that's not necessarily true. Plus, if this thing goes south, they're going to want to have more than one person on that application. We're always going to need a voided check or a bank letter. A clear voided check will always be necessary for the funding paperwork to be sent to the client. The voided check can't be an electronic check that they just type up and get online. It's got to be a voided check, either printed from the bank or from their checks that they already have. Now, if they don't, and by the way, you can't have a starter check because it doesn't have the name of the company or anything on it. So that's why we have to really take our time going through this, knowing that we can't even order the paperwork without that voided check or bank letter. Now, bank letter, almost every bank in the country is used to giving bank letters every single day. So what a bank letter is you call the bank and say, listen, I don't have any voided checks. I'm trying to get some funding done. I just need a bank letter of showing that I'm in good standing. And it's got to have on that bank letter, it's got to have the business name, the account and routing number. It's got to be dated and stamped and signed by the bank, and it's got to be on the bank letterhead. Every bank does this, and they'll do it in 15 minutes if you want them to. You can call them and they'll email it to you. So there's really no excuse whether it's a credit union or whatever. A lot of people don't work with checks, and we get that, but we've got to have either a bank letter or a voided check before we can move forward. If the accounts are larger than 100,000 to 200,000, except for A lenders, they almost never ask for any of this. But the B lenders and C lenders are going to want, when they get up for over 100,000, P&L and balance sheets year to date. And as I said, the A lenders are never going to ask for this. And then they ask for AR reports. These are accounts receivable reports for the larger type fundings. So what we basically do, if they don't have an AR report, we just say send us 5 to 6 or 7 of your current jobs that you're working on, the invoices, and give those to us, and then that will take the place of an AR. If we are working with A lenders and they want to do a payoff, because an A lender has to have a first position, and some B lenders want to be first position as well. So they'll pay off up to 2 positions if it makes sense. And so we would have to have the client contact the people they're lending from, where they got the other MCAs, and give us either a zero balance or a payoff. What is the difference? The reason we ask for zero balance letters is that because somewhere in there, the payments just stopped. So we want to make sure there's no balances left, and that's why they stop. And then payoff letters are usually for those that have been paid off for a long period of time. And then, of course, if they have a lot of taxes, federal and state, we will probably ask them for evidence that those federal and state taxes are in payment plan, and you can show it through your bank statement, or you can have a letter of a payment plan, which all state and federal governments provide for them. So these are just some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes on every application that comes through. And so when they submit an application, it doesn't mean it's immediately going into underwriting, because a lot of times, and as I've said, 6 out of 10, we've got to correct things on the application before we can even move forward. And we got to get those bank statements submitted to us as well. So, but in regards to, let me just shut this, in regards to the stipulations or regards to the application, do you guys have any questions or really in regards to any type of funding at all? I think this was a quick, useful little training that we went through, just so you can understand how the application process works. Just because they completed the app doesn't mean that we're going to be immediately putting them into underwriting, because we've got to make sure that the package is together with the bank statements along with the driver's license and voided check. Now, a lot of times we don't get the driver's license and voided check right away, and we'll still submit them to, but certain lenders need it all. And the reason it's important to get that voided check up front is because when they do accept the deal, we want to move this thing quickly. And if there's no voided check, then we got to go to the bank, get the voided check, get either the voided check or a bank letter if they don't have a voided check. So it just creates a lot of unnecessary confusion at the end of the process. Do we have any questions about anything that I covered? I don't see any questions there, Morgan. Do you see any?
I do not, and I don't have any in the chat either.
Okay. Thanks for being on at 1 o'clock. I'm going to be doing the business op. If you are available, hop on, get some folks and get them on as well. You guys have a blessed rest of the week.